Tomorrow, the Judiciary Committee will vote on Todd Blanch's nomination for Attorney General. Well, there are a number of reasons why the members of the committee should oppose Todd Blanch's nomination, from his willingness to enable Donald Trump's worst instinct to his role in helping create Trump's corrupt slush fund to pay out January 6 rioters who assaulted police officers here in this chamber and others. There's one reason that stands out far ahead of the others. It's his complete and total mishandling of the Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell case. Former Trump Attorney General Pam Bondi told the House behind closed doors that Todd Blanch, as her deputy, was responsible for how the department handled the Epstein files. Under his supervision, the Department of Justice promised the release of Epstein client list, claiming there was a list they compiled for Pam Bondi, sent it to Pam Bondi, only to backtrack and refuse to release the document for months. It took Congress passing an overwhelmingly bipartisan veto-proof federal law to force the release of these materials. Even then, the Trump administration, and specifically the Department of Justice under Todd Blanch's management, delayed their compliance with this law. When files were finally released, the identities of many perpetrators, not victims, were redacted, raising serious questions and concerns about who the administration was trying to protect. They redacted perpetrators, not victims. And as the White House and Justice Department tried to manage the fallout from mishandling of this case, Todd Blanch was reportedly in the Situation Room with senior Trump administration officials working on a public relations strategy, well, on behalf of the president. According to the New York Times, one of the options was to have a Justice Department lawyer interview Ghislaine Maxwell in order to get her to clear Donald Trump. Well, Todd Blanch apparently offered himself up to interview Ghislaine Maxwell and strangely raised the possibility that Maxwell's lawyer, quote, I'm going to quote here, might expect something in return for her candor, unquote, according to the Times. A convicted sex trafficker wishes something in return from the President of the United States. The White House counsel then laid out the possibility that Ghislaine Maxwell might be pardoned or have her sentence reduced. So you heard that right. There literally was a serious discussion at the White House to pardon or reduce the sentence of Ghislaine Maxwell, well, just in order to get her to say nice things about Donald Trump. And mind you, this is the same woman who facilitated Jeffrey Epstein's horrific abuse of underage girls over many years, year after year, hundreds of young women. Our justice system worked as it was supposed to. Maxwell was found guilty by a jury of her peers. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison for her crimes. And that's why it was odd when Todd Blanch, in a highly unusual step, personally interviewed Maxwell. And days later, she was magically transferred to a minimum security prison. Imagine that. That's not the only thing that's odd. Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney, who Todd Blanch calls a friend, said that Maxwell wanted a pardon from Trump in exchange for her public testimony that she would help Donald Trump. At the same time, Trump has refused to rule out pardoning her. Trump has said, I'm going to quote here, "I'm allowed to do it." He's even gone as far to say, "I'll take a look at it. I'll speak to the DOJ." This is our president. The president said he would speak to the DOJ, which would now be led by his former lawyer, Todd Blanch. It's frankly horrifying that Trump would entertain the idea of clemency for even a second for a convicted sex trafficker. That alone should be enough for the Senate to speak up with one voice and affirm that there should be absolutely no pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, not now, not ever. That's why earlier this year I introduced a resolution doing just that. But given the Senate Republicans are poised to soon confirm Todd Blanch should lead the Department of Justice, the time to bring this resolution is now. Earlier this month, the Senate passed a similar resolution saying there should be no presidential pardon for Sam Bankman-Fried. So we have already set that precedent here in this chamber. So let us now send a message to the White House and the Department of Justice right now that there should be no pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell. There should never be a pardon for someone who helped a monster abuse underage girls for years. And that's why I'm requesting that we pass my common sense resolution today saying just that. So, notwithstanding Rule 22, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee of the Judiciary be discharged from further consideration and the Senate now proceed to S-Res 608.
The clerk will report.
S-Res 608, expressing the sense of the Senate that Ghislaine Maxwell should not be granted a presidential pardon and so forth.
Is there an objection to proceeding to the matter? Without objection, the committee is discharged. The Senate will proceed to the measure.
I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Without objection.
Mr. President,
Senator from Nevada.
I'm so pleased that we could find unanimous agreement on a resolution against a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell. If Republicans advance Todd Blanch's nomination tomorrow in the Judiciary Committee, this is the least they can do to make their opposition to a Maxwell pardon clear. I yield.